Hi everybody, and welcome back to this series of Headstrong, a podcast where I sit down with a variety of people in the public eye to talk to them about their life, but most importantly their experiences with vulnerability, to try and get you on a path to becoming headstrong, to believe in yourself, to talk about your vulnerabilities and reinforce your self-worth. This second series is a Rugby World Cup special, so I am sitting down exclusively with rugby players both past and present to talk to them about their experiences in the world of rugby and around it. So I really hope you enjoy this inspiring episode. This is a very special episode to me of Headstrong because I am sat opposite one of my very, very good friends that I went to school with for 5 years and subsequently also went to university with, James McRae. Hello, sir.
Hi, Louis.
How are you?
I'm well.
This is quite a weird experience, really.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for coming on and agreeing to do it. It's very last minute from me. I apologise.
No, thanks.
We're actually back in the drama building down here at Exeter University, which is bringing back all the memes. But no, it's good fun. But thank you for coming on. Well, first of all, do you want to just say where you're playing currently?
Yeah, to everyone scrolling through.
Yeah.
Ben Morgan, Ollie Thorley, Matt Van Hand, James McRae.
James McRae.
Who is this guy? Hi, Mum. The only one that's listening.
Henners.
So my name's James, and I currently am signed to the Exeter Chiefs in the academy there, in the senior academy, and I'm on loan at the moment to the Cornish Pirates down in Penzance. So that's where my rugby is at the moment.
Love it. I'm so excited for this episode. Literally, because I know a lot about you, James, but I don't know much actually about your rugby.
Do you know the story,
exactly.
The journey.
Okay, everybody,
it's not much of a tale. It
is a tale to me.
Well, yeah.
So.
Maybe.
I'm 23. You are also 23.
Yeah.
James and I met 10 years ago now.
That's mental.
That is mental.
10
actually,
years.
Isn't it? We met at boarding school.
Yeah.
And we went to school together, and we became very, very close.
Did a little drama together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So your interests always didn't lie in rugby.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time prancing around the stage. You're also a very good singer, actually.
No, I'm not. No, I just enjoy singing, and usually in the shower by myself. And if I do it in public, then usually I get scolded by whoever's listening.
Actually, I do remember whenever there was a musical number when there were multiple people singing, you have the loudest voice compared to anyone. And also when we went to watch the theatre, like if we were sitting next to each other, everyone would turn around and see you because you were laughing. Oh god! Yeah. But yeah, so
loud.
Have you always played rugby?
No. So I grew up doing football and horse riding. So my mum is basically a big horse rider, and that was the thing that me and my brother did when we were younger to kind of bond with mum. And so we spent many years doing that, and I spent a lot of years going to a lot of my early years going to football at my kind of local clubs with Dad. Dad used to take us down. He was a footballer. He'd never played rugby. I think he watched a bit of rugby, but wasn't that interested. And kind of it was only when it was probably year 4 or 5 at school when I started playing, and I was always the biggest kid, so naturally I kind of was put in the rugby team. Was like, yeah, he's probably going to be quite good at rugby, or he's big enough. So that was kind of the start, and and from there kind of did a lot of sports, anything from kind of water polo at school, swimming. The horse riding stuff. I did triathlon, which is horse riding, running, shooting, pistol shooting, and swimming. It's like
swimming. You get off the horse and go for a swim.
So it's not quite. It's like the modern pentathlon, basically, which is in the Olympics. So it's those 4 events plus fencing as well, but it's without the fencing element of it.
I see.
So it was a multi-faceted.
Because obviously, when
not very talented at many of them.
You are. You're very well. You've got good hand-eye coordination, obviously, and exceptionally talented and gifted at sport. But my first memory of you, I think, was it was in first year at boarding school, and I met you, and I was like, "Holy shit, he's big." That is my first memory of you. So you definitely hit the nail on the head. Because you're still a big guy, but when you first got to boarding school, you haven't really grown in height that much.
No,
you've obviously built out and filled your bones.
Yeah, reached my my kind of peak at age 13. Yeah,
No.
No, not almost, but basically, I think I was probably about 6'1" at 13.
Yeah, and what was that? Even at prep school, you were obviously.
I was always the biggest ever since kind of 5 or 6, probably aged 5 or 6. I was just the big one. So it's been interesting playing rugby as everyone's caught up with me. Not always enjoyable. Used to kind of I used to go through people, and now I have to go around them a bit more.
Yeah, that's true. And so when we were at school, you were pretty much catapulted into the front of rugby at school, and pretty swiftly. I think maybe when you were 15 or 16, you were playing in the ones for with the 17 and 18-year-olds, right?
I trained with them. I don't think I ever played in the first team when I was sort of a year early. My dad was actually quite insistent about that. He didn't want me playing with like older guys, which is probably fair enough, because even though I was big, I wasn't kind of that strong. I hadn't really been in the gym or anything like that, and so that was kind of his decision. I wasn't.
No, that
was what it was.
Look, knowing that you were such of such dominance in terms of size, did you feel like a sort of pressure from the early ages of 13, 14, 15 to always be that kind of ball carrier, that leader? I mean, you've always been a natural leader, but did you feel that pressure on your shoulders to be that standout player, game in, game out?
I think obviously being physically bigger than everyone else at that time meant that I maybe subconsciously had a kind of thing of being the one that takes on the majority of the carries or the bit of leadership or whatever. But ultimately, it's a team game, rugby. So I feel like most of the time I was just glad to be part of the team and being or enjoying the rugby itself.
What was the school setup like in terms of rugby? Because whilst I did play rugby, I was not in the top teams whatsoever. But what was the kind of structure like in the approach to rugby when we were at school?
It was pretty bar style, kind of just most of the time, just go out and play.
What was the coaching like and stuff like that? Did we have a gym? Like you had a rugby gym, right?
We did for our last year, literally the final year of sixth form. That was the first year that we had a gym with kind of any forms of weights, free weights, stuff like that. So I kind of came into that pretty late. So I was sort of like 17. Basically 18 when I was first doing my weights programs, whereas I know a lot of the guys that I'm playing with now, they started a lot earlier than that, and so that was all a bit sort of alien to me. I never kind of really saw that side of rugby. It was just a game that I played with my mates
and that you enjoyed
at school and I had fun with.
Yeah, totally. But it wasn't all about enjoyment. You were eventually picked to represent England under 16 A's. Yeah. Do you want to just tell a little bit about maybe the structure of that, and also how did you get into that? Was that being scouted, or do you apply to that kind of thing? I don't really know the...
No, so basically it's through the county system when it's that age group. So it's the first age group that you can be capped at. I'm sure probably most people listening know that. You can get capped at under 16s, under 18s, under 20s, and senior level for all, England, Scotland, Wales, whatever. And basically at that age, all the counties kind of play each other, and then you're split into 4 divisions: Southwest, Southeast, Midlands, North, and then all of those regions play each other, and then the squads are kind of taken from those regional squads. And basically that year I was playing for Berkshire, my county, got picked for the Southwest, was then meant to play in this tournament, but it got called off, and so all of the boys, all 4 groups, went into one kind of camp for a weekend, I think it was, at Stowe School. And basically I was very lucky there. I had a really good game in one of the trial games and just kind of got noticed. I don't think I'd been noticed at all before, and got picked in basically the second team. So I didn't get capped at 16s level, but it was the kind of first time, the first time that I'd been with very good players all around me, and I really relished that.
It's quite difficult to maybe stand out, as like you say, it is a team sport, but individually they are looking to pick, and build that best team. Is there a lot of pressure, because obviously that was that one camp to basically decide this team for the year, I guess, and obviously you can get ups and downs and whatever, injuries, but that's quite a lot of pressure on a 16-year-old's shoulders, no? Yeah,
maybe. I think it was a strange time because obviously everyone wants to get in the team, everyone's trying their hardest, and it was very strange because for the coaches as well, because they're used to having a very specific setup of games running into the selection, and so it was a bit of a strange year, and it kind of it all happened very quickly. I think as a young guy there wasn't that much time to think about it, but I do certainly remember it as the first time that I thought, wow, okay, I can mix it at this level. I'm able to stick with these guys, and I was disappointed when I wasn't selected for the top team, as everyone is, obviously, because you always think that you're capable of playing at that level or at the top level, and so. But
it must have been reassuring to have already been in that mix of players anyway, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
And so, with a name like McRae, I am also correct in saying that there was maybe a time where you were considering playing elsewhere.
Well. I don't know. Considering is the right word. I think.
Sorry.
No.
Please.
Basically, I'm a bit Welsh. I'm a bit Scottish, and I'm a bit English. My grandma is Welsh. My grandpa and dad have Scottish roots, and mum's side is completely English. But yeah, I mean, as an age group kind of athlete going through that pathway after the under-16 stuff, I wasn't picked up at all, which was really disappointing in terms of I played those games for the under-16. We were called England South that year. That was the name for that sort of second team, and after I played those games, which I played very well in, I was man of the match in one of them.
Amazing.
And the second one I was I think I played well anyway. I was told that I played all right, and then nothing ever came of that. So I saw guys around me that were in my team going on to playing the England under 17s kind of set up in between there and the under 18s, and kind of never got a call or any inkling from anyone that I was kind of in the mix. And so basically, and that was the same with the Scotland stuff and the Wales stuff. So basically, I think I got a call from the Scottish Exiles, and I did a couple of Scottish Exile camps, which is like the branch for anyone obviously not in Scotland of that age group, and it just wasn't picked up basically, which just happens, and happens to most people obviously, and there are very few that kind of can play rugby for your country, under 16, under 18, any age group, and so I was just one of the ones that kind of got overlooked basically.
Yeah, totally. So back to school, I obviously said earlier that you are and were a leader at the school, so you were head of part of the prefects team, so to speak, but looking back at school, I think maybe my experience was slightly different, but there was always maybe an elevation of status and power with being in the 15 at school. How would you talk about that?
I think in our school environment, I think we were quite lucky to go to a school where lots of different things were celebrated. You could be the head of the chess team, and you would still kind of get a bit of respect from your kind of fellow students, and especially because rugby wasn't even the main sport. Football, cricket, these were hockey even were probably bigger sports in terms of the focus of the school, and so I don't think I ever kind of felt any kind of extra, I don't know, privilege from being in that team.
Not you personally.
No.
Actually, no one actually springs to mind.
No,
so.
maybe not.
So actually, I remember this now. So as mentioned, James and I went to University of Exeter together as well. I remember actually, maybe I was more thinking of taking a day off, to be honest, but I went down to the University of Exeter Open Day, which we were both there on the same day.
Yeah.
And we were walking what's called through the forum. So in Exeter, this room for the listeners is basically where the library is. There's a few outlets for eating and having a drink and whatever, and also some seminar rooms, because obviously you are there to work. Very important. But obviously you went over to the sports desk, because one of the most important things when you were choosing your university was, what is the rugby setup like?
Yeah.
And so you went over to, I assume, the head of sport or head of rugby, and had a chat to him. How important was it to have not necessarily a scholarship, but have that, input of structure for rugby at university?
Yeah, pretty important. I definitely remember it being a big part of the process. I never thought about being a professional rugby player or anything like that beforehand. It was always just going to be a fun thing that I was going to do at university. I was with the London Irish Academy for a bit, from sort of ages 15 to 18, and wasn't offered a contract there, and kind of had just thought, well, rugby's going to be this thing that I'm going to do, for enjoyment. I really love being part of a team, and when I was kind of looking at universities, I thought to myself, well, where can I try and get a good education and play good rugby? And the kind of two main ones that came up were Durham and Exeter, and I ended up applying to both. I had Durham as my first choice, Exeter as my second choice, and fortunately or unfortunately at the time, I missed my maths grade by one grade to get into Durham, and so Exeter kind of was my backup, and I was pretty happy with either university, and so I kind of
I remember that it was the summer of 2014, and we were in Edinburgh putting on a show, putting on a musical. And I remember that day. It was the 14th of August 2014, and I remember when you got your results, and it's so difficult because everyone was like celebrating by the sense of just like, oh, we've got our results, but like you were obviously naturally gutted at the time, because you hadn't hit. I think it was 1 mark, wasn't it?
Well, it was, yeah.
Or like a couple of marks.
I needed an A and I got a B, and basically I had my heart set on Durham, and that had been my kind of thing, and I'd been working towards that for a while, and it hadn't happened, and so. Did
you call them up and say, come on, give me a chance, I've got this rugby coming with me as well? Genuinely?
Yeah, I did, but it didn't materialise,
and luckily it didn't.
Yeah, luckily, very luckily. Weird how
open arms welcomed you in.
Yeah, exactly. So that was funny, and
it's amazing how things happen for a reason, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, maybe.
So you got down here to Exeter, as did I, obviously. How important was the rugby setup here in your kind of approach to university life? Because obviously you had a lot more time to focus on perhaps outside of rugby stuff, not on the pitch. So your strength and conditioning, your mental approach to rugby as well. Like, how was it down here compared to the school setup, and how much more important was it here?
Yeah, it was a massive step up, just because I think beforehand I'd always seen rugby as this fun thing, and I'd been part of a team, and when I got to university, the first thing that struck me, we turned up for our freshers session, and there were Exeter Chiefs there, basically straight off the bat. Can you remember
anyone?
I think Ian Whittam was there, Kai Horseman, Julian Salvi, some kind of big names in terms of Premiership rugby. I mean, Julian Salvi had been at Leicester for years and then come over to Exeter and done really well. I think even Tom Waldron was there as well. So immediately off the bat, I was like, oh my god, this is nuts. This is really cool. At the first session, and basically from there, just kind of. I thought to myself, well, this seems like a really cool opportunity just to get better at rugby, to enjoy this side of my kind of uni career, and just kind of launch myself into it.
So you said then that you had no idea maybe at this time that you wanted to take that step into professional rugby. You were obviously here for your education, but you wanted to play rugby perhaps at a hobby at the time. But when was that flick of the switch? When did you realise, okay, now actually I might have an in here, and this could well be a way of life for me, and I could become a professional rugby player?
It was probably in my second year, when I had been given the chance to play in one of the A-League games, so like the Premiership Shield, I think it's called now, but the second team, the second Chiefs team, basically. I'd been kind of in and out in terms of training. I'd done a couple of training sessions in my first year, and I had played a bit of sevens, I think, in the summer of my after my first year. But again, it was kind of just like, oh, this is really cool. I'm doing some stuff with Exeter. Didn't think anything would massively come of it. And then this opportunity to actually play for them came, and I played okay, and then trained sort of as the months went on after that. Trained with the guys a bit more on Fridays with the non-match day squad, and kind of over probably the course of that second year, I kind of started to think, well, actually, you know, I feel like I'm as good as some of the guys that are here. I feel like I could give this a go, and it kind of it went from there. And from that, in third year, I then started playing even more for the A-League side, and was offered a deal in just an academy contract in sort of January of my final year of university.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And now you left, right? So wait, so you were offered the contract in your third year, or was it to start once you'd finished?
Once I'd finished, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and then in that you came into the Exeter Academy, and you, as you said at the beginning, you now play a lot for Cornish Pirates, and so they are just say to people who might not know the affiliation between the Cornish Pirates and the Chiefs.
Well, the two southwest teams in the kind of top two leagues, very kind of historically steeped clubs. The Pirates have had I think 3 or 4 British Lions play for them back in the day. Yeah, serious stuff. Yeah, they had British Lions before Chiefs had any.
Take that, Chiefs.
Yeah, so basically the kind of the academy system works as it does with a lot of the Premiership clubs, where basically if you're not getting any game time in the academy, then you get loaned out to clubs in the National Leagues or the Championship.
And how do you find it down there in Penzance?
It's great. It's great in lots of ways. It's very different, just in terms of the facilities and the just basically the money involved. Kind of being able to look at the professional rugby setup at one end as Exeter, you know, competing for premierships at the top of the English game, you know, lots of England internationals in there, and then on the other end of the scale, it's been really interesting to see a team like the Pirates, who are very successful in their own right, you know, always in the top half of the Championship, looking to, you know, one day soon go up into the Premiership, but in an area of the country that is, you know, very far away. There's no other way to say it, down in Penzance.
Yeah, I know it too well, perhaps.
It's a very interesting environment. You know, lots of great quirks about living in Cornwall, and you know the team is great. We've got a great coaching setup down there. You know, but it's just the case that the facilities are not quite the same, and of course that brings with it different challenges and different it's a different ride, basically.
I suppose you want to be in that Chiefs team. I suppose obviously any player wants to be playing in the Premiership. I totally get that. Is it obviously there's quite a lot with this podcast to do, like, mentally, and your approach to rugby. Is it difficult sometimes to try and get that breakthrough, because obviously you want to be playing as best as you can for the Pirates, but your motivation is obviously to win, but you do want to progress your career at the end of the day, maybe.
Yeah.
So how difficult is it, you know, wanting to keep your career going and play to the best of your abilities and stuff?
Well, I think it's just a case of taking it week by week, basically. It's pretty cliche, it's very simple, but you get put in this environment in Exeter in pre-season, basically, where you're training with everyone, everyone's together, you have this really intense pre-season, and then the lone boys will go off to their clubs, whether that's sort of a more local club like a Plymouth, which a lot of the younger guys are at, or Cornish Pirates, where, you know, I'm down there full time, immersed in the Pirates, trying to, you know, play for them and stuff like that. And of course, once you've gotten that taste in pre-season, you definitely, you know, you want to be in that environment. You want to be sticking around in Exeter, but just the quality of the squad and the depth of the squad means that often there isn't room for younger guys to be getting game time week in and week out, and I've got to appreciate them in the pecking order of the back row of the Chiefs. I'm relatively far down, and so that just means that basically you've got to take your opportunities wherever they come, and for me that's come with the Pirates, and I've just got to try and make sure that I take it week by week. I make sure that I'm prepping as I would for the Chiefs, for the Pirates, making sure that I'm trying to bring everything that I can to that team and that environment, and just
But opportunities can come out of anything, though. I mean, the fact that you didn't go to Durham and you ended up here is already you've proved to yourself that you that was maybe one of the best things that has happened to you, not getting that A, because you never know, you might have gone to Durham and not be playing rugby now. You could well be doing anything. I have no idea.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, silver linings and all, but then as well, a few injuries, a few solid performances. You never know a career progression. I suppose that's the same with what I do. You'd never know the path that you're actually going to take.
Yeah, it's a very interesting environment to be in when you're sort of the small fish in the big pond, being the guy that is not necessarily the first choice, not going to be the first choice, unless there are a couple of injuries. You have to kind of manage your expectations, and you have to certainly be mindful that just because you're not being selected doesn't mean that you're not doing well.
Absolutely.
In terms of above me in the pecking order, you guys got guys like Don Armand, Sam Simmons, Dave Ewers, Mac Vazic. These guys are England internationals, seriously talented individuals, and there can't be room for all of you in a team. And so you've kind of just got to try and learn as much as you can from those guys, try and take as many lessons as you can, and basically, like you say, take any opportunity when it comes, because you never know when it's going to come. I know Sam Simmons was down playing for the Cornish Pirates in the same year that we won the Premiership. Basically, he was playing for the Pirates, and someone got injured up at Exeter, and he was called up. He was on the bench, and then came off the bench in the semi-final, that really famous semi-final when we beat Saracens, scored the winning try in the corner. And then we won the final, and so it can happen to you in an instant, but you've got to be willing to wait your turn, which is interesting.
Absolutely. Well, I've got no doubt that I'll be seeing you at Sandy Park soon.
All the McRae, come on down to Penzance, watch the Pirates.
I'll come down to
we got a great set of fans.
I'll be down to
love the Cornish Pirates.
I love it. I'll see you in the longboat. That's the only pub I can think of off the top of my head.
The Yacht Inn.
Oh yeah,
the Logan Rock Inn.
Okay. Hotel Penzance, as well. There's a B&B there that I've stayed in before. It's quite arty.
Yeah, I'm sure there are lots of...
Oh, thanks. I thought you were going to say the name.
No.
Anyway, hi everybody. Sorry to interrupt the podcast. Just a quick word from our two sponsors. Headstrong is very fortunate to have found two amazing sponsors and supporters for Season 2 of Headstrong, the Rugby World Cup special, forming a brilliant partnership between Headstrong, our chosen charity Restart Rugby, and themselves. They cover between them all aspects of global insurance, and both have strong historical ties to the wider rugby and well-being communities. Ascot Group is a Bermuda-domiciled global specialist in insurance and reinsurance. Built on a foundation of underwriting expertise, but with a culture of collaboration, dedication, empowerment and accountability that is the fabric of the company. Their integrity is reinforced by a strong track record and dedication to clients, brokers and partners. For more information on Ascot Group, visit www.ascotgroup.com. BMS are an entrepreneurial, agile, specialist insurance and reinsurance broker that prides itself on their reputation for exceptional client service and position as one of the leading global brokers. For more information on BMS, visit www.bmsgroup.com. Now, back to the podcast. So, fingers crossed for you in terms of, I want you to be playing for the Chiefs. But what's your kind of approach over the next 5 years, 10 years?
Goodness,
No, I know it's quite going in deep there.
No, it's not deep. It's just, I think being in the position that I am, it's very sort of transient. You know, I can be basically an Exeter 1 week and Cornish Pirates the next, and I've only signed 2 1-year academy deals. So basically my contract is up at the end of this year, and it's the same for a lot of young academy guys. I was slightly different because I came out of, obviously, university. Most people come out of school. So I was sort of on my first year academy deal and came in with a load of the 18-year-olds from Exeter, who I'm all sort of great mates with now, because, you know, when you're kind of at the bottom of the pile altogether and it's your first year, that's kind of gives you a bit of a bond, which is cool. And so basically what the nature of my path has taught me is that you can never really know what's around the corner. Basically, I could be in 6 months' time not playing rugby ever again professionally because, you know, my contract's up at Exeter. They don't want to offer me another contract, and, you know, maybe no other teams that I want to play for have been interested, and so I've got to go off and hopefully use my university degree and try and get a normal job, basically, which is, you know, kind of what I'm expecting, what I've got half an eye on. Obviously I want to be, you know, doing my rugby. I want to be, you know, pushing for another contract. I want to be trying to do all the things that I've been working for the last couple of years towards. But at the same time, I'm in a position where I think a lot of young guys find themselves in, a lot of young academy players, when you know that you're at the bottom of the pecking order, and you have to have other options in mind, and you have to kind of start thinking about what the future will be if in 6 months' time you're not playing rugby. So
I think you're really lucky in that regard as well, that you really made that decision to say, I'm going to get a degree and I'm going to have this under my belt.
100%.
Exactly, and that's really important, because I like when I spoke to Ollie earlier in the series, he's playing for Gloucester in the starting 15 now, but he's still like, I need to get a degree, and this is something that he wants to do and he thinks that he needs to do, and I think it's really important for everyone to have that educational, you know, platform behind you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to go to university per se, but having, you know, whether it's taking a business course or, you know, I know guys that have done like bricklaying courses or plumbing courses, just something to kind of, just keep an eye on the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a very cutthroat world, the rugby world.
Absolutely. Well, looking at the future, by the time this comes out, we will already be in November, and we will know who has won the Rugby World Cup. Commiserations to England. But in November, you are doing Movember.
Yes.
That we just talked about.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're doing, please.
So I'm going to put out to my Instagram followers, my friends, to choose my Mo. Basically, that's going to be my plan. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up with something really, really hanging, some handlebars.
I'm definitely voting handlebars, 100%.
I think I'm going to give a few people some. I'm going to give a couple of polls.
I might suggest, what about like stripes?
Stripes, oh my god.
I know, I just thought of it. I'm looking at you. You've got a full face of hair right now. You could totally do it.
Yeah,
I mean, it might not be a good look, but
no, I don't think it would be a good look at all. But it's not the point. Is, you know, the point is raising awareness.
Exactly. The most important thing is you will be following up on all these people who are voting for whatever the banter might be. You'll be following up with them to make sure that they actually do novate to what is an incredibly important cause.
Yeah, definitely. A friend of mine from my London Irish days, Johnny Williams, who's now I think up in Newcastle, a guy that I played with anyway. He was recently diagnosed with cancer. I think he had a tumour in his testes. You know, and it's an interesting and kind of quite frightening prospect that, you know, no matter what age you are as a guy, you can have this happen to you. So it's very important to make sure that guys are checking.
Definitely send all our best to him as well on his recovery. So I ask this to every guest that comes onto my podcast. The first question is, whilst you're only 23, Jimbo, what piece of advice would you give to maybe someone who wants to get into professional rugby that, you know, from your own experience, you've kind of helped get you through it?
Probably the best bit of advice that I've been given is to find mentors and to foster relationships with guys that are in more experienced positions than you. I got that bit of advice from a businessman, not even a sportsman, but I think it translates into lots of areas of your life, especially someone that isn't in your family, isn't in your immediate circle. Whether it's through a family friend, or you just started a job and you've realised that there's someone who's in a higher position, a position of power, that you get along with, and you can talk to about things. I think that's a massively important thing, and I think you can learn a huge amount from absorbing tips and life lessons from a mentor that is kind of outside of your immediate family and friend group.
I think that's a really important piece of advice, and one that we haven't actually heard yet on Headstrong, so that's great. The final question I have is, what does the word headstrong mean to you?
To me, I think headstrong means being able to stick up for yourself. It's certainly something in the last couple of years that I have worked on in myself, trying to make sure that, whether it's in training, and one of the guys has kind of has said something, or you've made a mistake, and you're getting down about yourself, kind of being able to stick up for yourself both mentally and verbally, just making sure that you're not being pushed over by anyone, or you're putting yourself down, is a pretty important trait, something that I think being headstrong encompasses.
Nicely put. James, thank you very, very much for coming on to Headstrong with me.
No worries,
I think it's really, really interesting, your story and route. So yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to it. I hope it hasn't been too boring. Cheers. No, thanks very much, and best of luck for this season. And hopefully see you in a Chiefs shirt soon.
Thank you.
So that is it again for this episode of Headstrong. If you've enjoyed it, please go rate it and subscribe, and please tell all your family and friends about it. I'd love to keep getting the message out there. Now I'm going to hand over to Damien Hopley to tell you a little bit more about my official partner for this series, Restart Rugby.
My name is Damien Hopley, Group Chief Executive of the Rugby Players Association. Restart is the official charity of the RPA, and the charity provides crucial support to current and former professional rugby players suffering from serious injury, illness or hardship. Since 2005, Restart has invested over 1.7 million into player welfare and support by funding medical treatment, rehabilitation or disability support, financial support and emotional support, by providing a 24/7 confidential counselling service, and we're the only body in English rugby that invests in mental health support. 1 in 4 people in the UK will be affected by mental illness in any year. Rugby players are no exception, and often the pressures and strains that act as a catalyst to mental health issues are magnified for professional athletes. Players often find it difficult to cope with the transition out of rugby, and the reality is that over 60% of players reported mental health issues post-retirement, and over 50% of players take 2 years or longer to be in control of their lives post-rugby. In 2008, the Rugby Players Association and Restart launched a 24/7 telephone helpline and counselling service to provide vital mental health support to those players and families that were facing struggles. 42 current and former players accessed the confidential counselling last year. More than 140 players have accessed the counselling service over the past 3 seasons. Every year, Restart spends up to £60,000 on our confidential counselling service to help support our players. Without support from donors and fundraisers, Restart would simply not be able to continue this vital support for our players. Sadly, these mental health issues can lead to devastating consequences. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under 45 in the UK, and rugby players are not immune. It's great to see the players talking more openly about their mental health struggles within rugby and after they finish playing. Thank you for all your support towards Restart. Without people like yourselves, we could not help players and their families in the way that we do. So thank you all very much.